Hi everybody, welcome to the dungeon. My name is Robin and today is Lampworking 101.85. Today we're going to talk about the Wavy Bead, and I just love the depth in this bead. It's kind of famous, I think, for its distinct waves, deep waves. I have done one similar to it called Clear Illusions, but this one, the wave is much more pronounced, and I really like the way it came out. So I'm glad I can share it with you guys. And on that note, I hope you're all doing safe and well out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time in the dungeon. All right, I'm going to start this bead out by making a couple of thick stringers that I'm going to need. And the first one I'm going to make, I'm just going to show you this one. It is a nice thick black stringer. So that means I'm going to get a really good amount of glass hot. And if you're used to making really thin stringers, then just be patient and heat up as much glass as you can handle. And then go ahead and pull it out of the flame. And I do generally let it cool down a little bit after I get that major heat in it, so it forms kind of like a skin on the outside, cools down a little bit and pushes that heat inward. And then I will grab the end and gently start to pull out from both sides. If you have trouble with these stringers, keep practicing. Maybe check out my stringers video, that might help. Either way, you don't have to necessarily do this part. We can make it much simpler. All right, I have my stuff ready here. So the color I'm going to use today is kind of really interesting to me. It is the green copper red, and it is the Moretti color 229. That's green copper red, and it went through all these different changes while I was working on it. So, you know, the outcome really surprised me. So what I want to do, either way, you're going to use your first color, and you're going to start to build up a nice big disc. And if you haven't noticed already, the first half of this demonstration is all done in real time, because I just wanted to share with you guys how it really is behind the flame. And we'll speed it up once we have the clear on there. But I'm doing my best to heat this up and keep my wrap going all the way around. And I do that by heating up a bit of glass, and then I'm holding it through the flame. And I just continue to slowly feed the glass onto the disc through the flame. And I will let you know, it does take a lot of practice, because even with me, you know, because I don't do a lot of, you know, beads that need to have a perfect disc at the beginning. Even me, it's not perfect. So the beauty of this is that you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get close. So that's what I'm just doing here, is trying to get close to a nice disc. And because I like to make things on the larger side, I want this disc to be bigger than this. We're going to go a little bit more. However, you can make the disc however big you want, however much you feel comfortable adding on that mandrel. With that said, it is always fun, though, to push yourself and, you know, go for that extra wrap. All right, and that's what I'm going to do here. I am just going to keep the disc warm, but it's not really in the flame when I am adding this wrap on here. What's in the flame mainly is the bottom bit of my glass rod that I'm melting onto the disc. I give it a little wiggle sometimes if I need that extra heat. That heat will wrap around the glass, and it'll be easier for me to feed it onto the disc. I was really happy with this, by the way. and when I thought that, I figure I better stop now. So that's about as wide as I'm going to get this. So at this point, I'm going to use my mini mashers again and just kind of keep it in a nice disc. And remember, the very first footprint that I laid down, it was a pretty, it was nice and thick. It was just a single width, but it was still nice and thick on the mandrel. And this is where you want to keep this disc warm. But here's where I'm going to add my second color. I'm just going to use, this is the yellow from Effetri. And what I did was I pulled the thick stringer out, and now I'm just applying it starting at the mandrel. And all of my heat right here is focused on the end of the stringer, where it is touching and where I want it to touch the disc. My disc is getting warm. I can see the disc getting red from my angle, which I'm sorry, I wish I had a better angle of this, but I'm just gonna continue to add that heat. And I will let you know, I tend to choke up a little bit where I hold my glass, so there's many times that I'm feeding the glass into the flame, and then in order to get a little bit more glass, I will come out of the flame real quick and readjust where my hand is holding the stringer, and then go back in and continue. All right, now I immediately am going to heat up where the glass meets the mandrel, just a little bit. I don't want any of this bead to crack, so I do like to spend time just keeping it nice and warm. And you want to work on the warmer side. You don't want to work hot and sloppy, but you want to work the glass as warm as possible so you don't have any cracking issues. Okay, here is the second stringer. I'm going to add, this is the black, and I'm just going to add a nice single wrap all the way around. Now, if you don't feel comfortable going this far, all you really need to pull this wavy bead off is a disc, just a single color disc. And then from there, just go ahead and add the first layer of clear and melt it in. If you want things bigger, double-sided, with this band around it, then, you'll continue kind of working it this way. Or if you want it bigger and have extra clear, because I'm going to add 2 layers of clear dots on here. So the first one, I'm just going to heat up a nice ball of clear and push it down real hard close to my mandrel and lift and kind of pull and lift up before the glass has time to stick to the bead. Okay, so you're gonna almost get it extra hot, and then when you come down, you push and you lift up right into the flame to then cut it off. And in between each one of these dots, I'm going to heat the back side of my disc. I've made these before, and I like to take my time adding the dots on. And because of that, the bead just needs to be a little warmer. It needs to stay warm the whole time, especially on the back side, because it's thicker than just a single disc. Even if you have a single disc, it's good to be able to, just heat up the side you're not focusing on, just to give it the insurance heat that it needs. This last one almost stuck to the bead, so I had to bring that heat up a little bit more, but it didn't seem to affect the band around the bead here. And that is what we have, our 5 dots. Now, if you have less dots, it looks amazing, like 4 or 3. Even 2 looks really cool. But you need a little bit more clear in order to do the 2. Anyway, I'm gonna do the same thing on the back side. So I'm gonna focus everything in on this green copper red, which is kind of strange because there were moments where the color would just keep changing, and I was really happy it came out the way it did, but you'll see that when I put it away, it looks green. So it's an interesting color to play around with, and I think it paired really well with the yellow. which has become one of my favorites lately. Now, when I did the first demo of this was the clear illusions, and when let me let you know what's happening here. A little bit of the black fell off, so I didn't want to add a dot right there. So I added it to the other side, and I want to just fill this in real quick with a little bit more of that stringer. So if this happens to you, don't worry, don't panic. Just stop everything, heat it up, add a little bit more, and keep going. And it'll be fine. And then I'm going to just spend a little time warming everything, and then I will go ahead and continue. But what I was saying is that in the clear illusions, I add a lot more, the clear is more in a striped pattern, so I'm getting more clear around it, so it makes it more jagged looking. And when you have these less dots, like 6 or less, you can get that beautiful, real smooth wave going. It looks great. And if you have a little disc, then just try 4 dots on each side. It looks amazing. Okay, so if you don't want to add a second coating of clear here, then you will go ahead and just start to heat it up. But you see I have the 4 dots on both sides, and they're kind of pointed towards the edge. And I'm gonna go ahead and add some more clear on here because I want it to look just really nice and deep, these waves. So this is where I'm going to just pick up the pace with the video, and you can see how quickly I'm working now. And I'll just go ahead and, like the first round of clear, I'm going to add these the exact same way, just right on top of each other. I'll add a dot, lift up into the flame and cut it off, and then go into the heat, and I just keep continuing to keep the backside warm. I can't tell you how important that is. All right, now I am ready to add some clear to the other side, and then we will go ahead and begin the heating up process, which is a lot of fun. Now, when I heat this up, as always, I will really take my time. And I think that's important. You don't want to rush it. You don't want to overheat to the point of things getting out of control or melting, off center. All right, there's how it looks. And this is how it should look if you're going to do a similar one to this. Kind of looks like a spaceship. Okay, so here is the beginning of the heat, and I will slow this down a little bit when things get really hot. So first, all my heat is going towards the equator. However, you don't have to do this. I don't know why, I just wanted to straighten things up. So if you need to straighten anything up and it starts falling one way or the other, have something to kind of help you out with that. Okay, so I do heat the sides as well, just not as much. Most of my heat goes right to the equator, but because you're not heating up the sides right now, what's hanging on to the mandrel is extremely thin compared to this thickness that you're getting from the heat. And this is how I'm heating right now. I like to heat nice and slow, and once my glass starts to get kind of loopy like it is right now, I will start to slowly heat the equator to the edge and heat the side where the bead hole is. That's really important. And then I'll go back to the equator, and then I'll heat the side up. And what that does is that it allows the glass to start to kind of pull out towards where the flame is on the mandrel. I'm not sure if that even makes sense to myself, but either way, what you're gonna do is you're just gonna take your time. And if things start to get funky, come out of the heat, let it cool down for a second, and then go back in and continue. And at the end here, I'm really going to add a lot more heat to the sides. As you can see here, I'm really pushing the heat on my side to draw that glass out towards towards the flame. All right, I'm gonna finish heating everything up and we'll be done. I'm gonna let it cool down a little bit. And don't forget, it can take time for your bead to cool down. You don't want it to shift when you put it in the annealer. And again, the color change on this I thought was really, really interesting. So I hope you guys think so too. And on that note, I hope you all enjoyed this one, and we will see you next time in the dungeon.